And with that, I'm excited to introduce our next presenter on today's event. That is Subbiah Sundaram. Forgive me if I mispronounce it. Subbiah Sundaram, Vice President of Products and Marketing at HYCU. Subbiah, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for being on the event today.
Absolutely. Pleasure. So first off, folks, I really appreciate you giving me the time. And I'll move my slides next. Cool. Again, my name is Subbiah Sundaram. I'm presenting on behalf of both Nutanix and HYCU here. I know you have a lot of choice to listen to a lot of different sessions. We really appreciate you taking the time to spend time with us today. So since your time is valuable, we said let's actually be upfront with what's the topic are we going to talk about today. Within the next 20 minutes, what we are trying to provide you some information around is three things. First is all of you are always in the process of how to simplify your infrastructure. Our goal is to show you a way where you can eliminate one of your silos in your infrastructure, thus simplifying your life. That's the first one. The second thing is around many of you, I'm sure, large enterprises and mid-sized enterprises, you guys have been using data protection for ages. So you might be wondering why now, what's different? The key thing is that your data protections were originally developed 20 plus years ago that originally intended for classic three-tier architectures and legacy infrastructure, which you guys have refreshed quite a bit. Now the question is, do you have to have your data protection infrastructure which actually does the same thing? How do you simplify it? The key thing is at the same time not break the bank, meaning you cannot suddenly go and ask your management for lots of extra money. How do you do that cost efficiently? And the third thing is, I'm sure all of you are in the journey to the cloud. I mean, all of your organizations are always constantly evaluating what should we have on-prem, what's on the cloud, and so on. The question is, we will actually show you some capabilities you can do, how to make your entire journey simple across the board. So let's actually go to the next thing. Okay. So first thing before I thought was let's actually go quick about the two people who are actually participating here. One is Nutanix, the other one is HYCU. I don't have to introduce Nutanix to you guys. As I'm sure most of you know, Nutanix as one of the pioneers in the hyperconverged infrastructure space. Their entire focus of Nutanix, as their CEO elegantly puts it, is to make computing invisible. And our partnership with Nutanix has been phenomenal. And what Nutanix has done is that be it on-prem or be it on the cloud, you can have one cloud operating system which moves from one place to the other. That's the simplicity which Nutanix has brought to you for the multi-cloud infrastructure management. So now let's talk about HYCU. HYCU we've been in business for many years, but many of you, we were under a different name. We rebranded ourselves as HYCU 3 years ago. The thing about HYCU is we pride ourselves on our dedicated focus on data protection, and especially multi-cloud data protection. And we focus on specific partners and go deep with them. And that's why we are very proud to say we are a great partner of Nutanix. And I think that's something we have actually done. The most important thing in this slide, which I like about, is our NPS score. NPS score, as many of you know, is the Net Promoter Score. This is the score which customers provide us, and we are very happy to report that our customers, 91 NPS score, which many of you who know about it, is extremely high, and this is truly run by a professional organization. So let's quickly talk about what does Nutanix do to the IT infrastructure. The thing about what Nutanix does, as most of you know by now, traditionally people had this complex three-tier infrastructure. What Nutanix said was, why all this complexity? Let's just make all of it into one integrated solution. That's the Nutanix HCI appliance. When they did that, they dramatically simplified it. They realized customers need choice. So what they did was, in addition to just their own platform, they said you can buy any hardware infrastructure you wanted to. So they took their cloud operating system and they made it run on the different platforms which customers buy. In addition, it's not a one-time purchase, right? All of you have an organization which constantly is evolving. The beauty of hyperconverged infrastructure is that you can start small and incrementally grow as your organization is growing. That's the big beauty of it. That's infrastructure. Now, what your organization truly cares about, or meaning what your management is constantly asking you about, is applications and data. And in addition to that, traditionally you had to manage all the virtualization and containers and all the hypervisors. What Nutanix said was, guys, why do we have to do that? Let's virtualize, make it invisible too. That is something they made it part of the core platform. That's the beauty of what Nutanix has done. It's taken the complex three-tier infrastructure and made it into simple modular infrastructure we can scale as you grow. So that's the invisible infrastructure. Now, if you go next, let's talk about what is happening in the data protection space. Today, in most customer infrastructure, if you look at what's the traditional backup architecture, you have this beautiful modular infrastructure running production, but when it comes to backup, they actually have an extremely complex deployment. They have lots of different piece parts, lots of different servers running all over the place, agents deployed across the board, and in addition, you actually, if you ever say if you want to manage it, they'll say, oh, I need additional management servers. And once you start having such a lot of complex infrastructure, as many of you know, it's a question of how do you upgrade? Upgrades become painful. In addition to that, it's just not about that. You have to run this thing, you have to buy additional licenses, not just the backup software. Now you got to buy additional Windows licenses, SQL Server licenses, or also additional technologies you need infrastructure to run. And many of these things are data technologies that were originally developed in a time where they assumed the infrastructure was not smart. Solutions like Haiku are built with the focus saying infrastructure is smart, meaning a platform like Nutanix or VMware right now has built-in snapshot replication, all that. So the question is, can we take advantage of that and make it simple for you? That's what the thing is. And the last thing is, cost is always important in every IT. So why Haiku and Nutanix, right? Nutanix simplified the entire IT production infrastructure. So now the question is, how do we make the data protection simple? So what we did was, we took the Haiku, made it into an extremely near zero maintenance infrastructure, meaning we made it easy to deploy, take a simple virtual appliance, run it right on the platforms you are running right now, so that way you don't have an extra silo running on top of that. The thing is that because Haiku is a technology which is a young technology and has been built with scalable platforms in mind. So the solution right from the get-go has been built to be modular like your Nutanix infrastructures. The thing is that it's one simple solution, one single solution, rather than having to have one reporting server, one monitoring server, and so on. It's one solution you can actually deploy. And the last part here is that, again, you've got to make it cost efficient. As I mentioned earlier, I'm sure all of your organizations constantly look at cost, and it's built in there. The other big thing Haiku does differently than other backup vendors is that traditionally backup vendors build one backup software and make it work on 10 different platforms, whereas Haiku did it differently. What we said was that every platform is smart. Let's build it native to the platform, native to Nutanix, native to VMware, native to Azure, native to Google. And once we do that, we actually make it so simple for the customer because it's a service of the platform. That's the simplest, that's a purpose-built nature. So what I talked to you about was around the backup data protection infrastructure and the management. Many of you are probably thinking, Supplier, that's great, but my boss cares about only the applications. That's a great point. So let's talk about it. One of the things which Haiku does is that we have a patent on what's called automatic application discovery. As soon as you deploy Haiku in your infrastructure, Haiku goes and discovers what applications are running you're running. Again, you don't have to do anything special except give us the credential. Once you give it the credential, Haiku goes and discovers what applications you have. People wonder, so what's the big value? What's the value of this thing? The big thing for the customers is that it is, number one, we tell you in a large infrastructure, we can come and tell you what applications you're running. That's number one. Once we do that, because we know what applications are running, we don't have to keep asking you, oh, what application is that? What do I have to do? No, don't worry about it. because we know it's an Exchange, we know it's a SQL, we know it's an Oracle, SAP HANA, Active Directory, whatever it is, right? We will do the right thing for the right application. So it's without the customer having to do zero extra effort, they can get application consistency built in. It's just not about application consistency, as many of you probably are wondering. It's around the recovery. That recovery is the most important thing, because that's the only reason you guys are backing up, right? The thing about our thing is that when we can recover individual files or folders, or your databases, a single database, all of your databases, or even point in time to a database. That is something Haiku can do. One thing, when we still talk about applications, customers typically ask us, so you have to run agents? He said, no, Haiku is 100% agentless. That is something to note. Okay, so that's a quick rundown. So now let's actually talk about the next thing that I want to cover is around NAS servers. Many of you know backing up virtual machines and applications are tough, but backing up file systems, especially large scale-out file systems, are extremely complicated. Most vendors, typically the way they end up doing is they have agents or what they call proxy servers running around and crawling the entire file systems. Those things take lots of time and lots of your expensive resources. What we do in Haiku is that we make it completely agentless. The good thing is when we worked with Nutanix, we have been very proud to say that we worked with Nutanix on developing what they call the change file tracking. We were the first vendor to actually work with them and help them build it and actually build our solution along with that. So that's even a 20 million file system, backing it up, you can do in minutes. Ask any other backup vendor, and that will be extremely hard to do that. So the thing is that, again, as I said, it's impact-free. The big thing is that we also, as your systems scale, we talked about it. The reason you like all these NAS servers is that you can scale up. When you scale up, your backup has to scale without having to add extra load. And your infrastructure system should be easy to do the scaling. That is something built in Haiku. And all of your system infrastructure is fully cataloged, and it's easy to search even millions of files across the board. So that's with regards to the NAS backup. The next thing which many of our customers ask is that, guys, I have my Nutanix for production or VMware for production. Predominantly, let's say, a lot of customers actually are simplifying using Nutanix. And they say, what do I back up to? Haiku, by default, actually supports a variety of you can leverage your existing infrastructure. You can use your any old NetApp NAS boxes, or you can use your Ecologic iSCSI boxes, or any of or your old data domains. You can use that too, not a problem. In addition, we also support all the public clouds. But all of that stuff said, most customers are constantly expanding their capacity. And when they expand the capacity, they need additional storage. And the way we tell people is, why bring in a brand new architecture from somewhere else? You already are looking at using a Nutanix. Nutanix, as we said earlier, allows you to modularly grow from small to the large infrastructure as your infrastructure needs grow. That's one of the reasons we recommend to people use Nutanix Mine or Nutanix Objects. And this allows you to gradually grow the infrastructure as the customers need. So the big thing for the customer, there is no new solution. It's not a separate silo for you to manage. As I said earlier, our goal is to eliminate silos, because now you can manage your storage as like any other Nutanix infrastructure right from your Prism console. The other thing, it's modular scalability. We talked about it. We leverage all of the power of the Nutanix platform because it's built in with lots of intelligence, and we leverage that. Many of you are worried about ransomware. If you are interested, please send us a chat, and we'd be happy to send you additional information on how to prevent ransomware. There's no cost to it. We can actually give you a checklist on what are the things you can do to actually prevent ransomware. That's because we have lots of experience helping customers recover from ransomware too. So come to us, we can help you there. And the other thing which I want to actually call out is around auto tiering, because most customers start with one kind of storage, but as time moves, they have to move to different tiers, because some of them actually have archives. One of our customers has to back up data for life. He said, what do you mean life? He said, so far for some of their data for some customer critical workloads, he said those have to live forever. So that's the kind of workload you have to have the ability to auto tier, and that is something Haiku could help you with, along with Nutanix. So we talked about on-prem infrastructure. many of you are in your cloud journey, right? On a constant basis, your management is coming and telling, hey, it's great that we have it, but can we use some Azure? Can we use some Google? Whatever your preferred cloud vendor is. And the good thing is that Haiku and Nutanix can help you with that. If your customer actually has data on Azure or Google or AWS, not a problem. We can actually help you back up the data to those cloud platforms. That's the first part. The second one is, in addition to that, we can also get you an application consistent data migrator, meaning spin up an entire application running on-prem onto the cloud with a click of a button. That is something, that level of simplicity is, that's why we call it spin up and spin down. You can spin up to a cloud and also spin down from the cloud. That is something we could do, again, with a click of a button. If you're interested, let us know. Very happy to go through a full deep dive on that particular one. So people ask us, so what's special, Supplier? What's special about this whole thing? Nutanix and Haiku, the reason they came together was two things. Nutanix is a platform, as I said earlier. Nutanix simplified the entire production infrastructure for many customers. When we looked at building data protection, we said we can, like traditional data protection, would build a lot of these functionalities into that platform. We said, why build it when the platform is smart? So what Haiku decided was, let's take all of the functionality which is built into the Nutanix platform, like snapshots, clones, replication, compression, whatever, name it, right? All that stuff, and let's build on top of it. And so what we did was, we took the Nutanix intelligence, added the data protection layer on top of Nutanix. So there are two parts to the data protection layer. Right? I call it the cake. It's a layered cake approach. Nutanix builds the foundation. Haiku brings in the data protection. There are two parts to it. One is, what does a good enterprise data protection have to offer? That's the first layer. The second layer, what are some of the things Haiku does differently than your traditional backup vendor? Here are some examples. We have a huge list of what we call first and onlys. If you're ever interested, let us know. Very happy to actually walk you through. So that's a quick rundown on why we think it's a perfect complement. And when you are investing in a solution like this, what customers do is that, one, eliminate the complexity because you're leveraging what's already built in. One of the simple things we tell people is, even if you don't go with us, don't try to buy technology which repeats what the other guy has already done. Try to leverage what's already have invested in, right? It sounds rational, but sometimes we have a hard time finding the right technology. This allows you to build on what you already have invested in. That's the first part. The second thing is, it's around simplifying your entire management. This allows you to, what Haiku has done is that taken our entire data protection and integrated it into the Prism console itself. So for a customer, it's a single pane of glass. They eliminated their IT infrastructure silo before with Nutanix. Now they can eliminate the data protection silo with Haiku and Nutanix. So you are simplifying your infrastructure further. So I told you about our solution. People then ask us, so is this really true? I just thought, instead of me telling, maybe I should just put some of what customers have told us about. As you can see from here, a banking customer talking about it, saying how we made their life simple with our joint solution. That's one example. We can talk about some of the customers like Adventist Risk. I mean, like they have a large infrastructure, and Haiku, along with Nutanix, has simplified their entire IT infrastructure. And as you can see from one of our favorite customers from Delaware Valley, where he talks about how we help, so if you're in healthcare business, how we can simplify your entire infrastructure and you make your life a lot more simple. As a CIO, the key thing you're looking for is, how can I keep my data protected without having tons of resources and money? And that is something Haiku can help. Just two other things which I want to just call out. Many of you are wondering, you're saying, so this sounds nice. How do I really get my hand on it? If you really want to do it, the clicks you see on the screen are clickable. So you can actually click them and really go and test it yourself. The first one, the Nutanix Test Drive with Haiku, this is a real live infrastructure running on the cloud. If you want it, click on it. Within a couple of minutes, you'll get an email with a live production system running. You can test out the entire solution in live. You can play with it whatever you want. That's the first one. The second thing, some of you would think, that sounds nice, but I really want to put it in my lab and test it. Let's try Haiku. Go to the Try Haiku. We will give you a free license to go and test it, a trial license at no charge. You can go and test it in your labs. That gives you hands-on experience. To make it easy for many of you wondering, like, is there any specials for this one? We actually gave you, if you actually have Nutanix objects as your backup target, you get 10 VM license free at no charge for you to try it out for 6 months. So that is something you can actually do. Same thing with files. If you use Nutanix files, they give you 1 terabyte capacity backup at no charge. Those are just some samples. Again, give it a try. If you have questions, we're always there to help you. So you probably are wondering, there's a build thing there. The key thing which I want to just talk about, there are 3 things I want you to key takeaway. First is that how do you eliminate what we want to offer you is that please think of simplifying your infrastructure. That's something I'm sure many of you are actually doing. And what you saw is one of the ways you can actually do that. You have simplified your production infrastructure. Now it's big time you actually simplify your data protection infrastructure too. That's the first one. The second thing is many of you have backup software which was originally built 20 plus years ago. It's time for you to rethink, is that the right architecture for where you are headed? You guys are headed in the cloud. There are a lot of vendors who announce sometime, and I look at it, the problem is they're adding complexity after complexity for customers. Try to find a solution that simplifies the thing rather than add complexity. And the way you can do that is you can look at technologies like Haiku and Nutanix, which our entire goal and purpose in life is to simplify and make it invisible. Sounds crazy, but that's our goal, to make it invisible so that it simplifies your management and where you can actually focus on. And the last thing I'll mention here is multi-cloud management is not a dream anymore. I'm sure many of you, pretty much what we hear is that on an average customers have between 4.5 to 5 cloud, public clouds they have using in their, as part of their overall solution. You need to have your infrastructure data protection ready for that, and that is something we can actually help you with. So that's just a quick rundown across the board. We have, I think there's actually one of those takeaways which is available. You guys can actually download that. But if you have any questions, just send a note to info@haiku.com or info@nutanix.com, and we'd be very happy to answer any questions for you. And by the way, I think that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to send it on the chat, and happy to do that.
Great presentation, Supplier. We do have some questions for you from the audience. While we do that, I'm just going to bring up this poll question for everyone out there. I want to call your attention to, it says, what additional information would you like about the Haiku and Nutanix solution? So let's see, first question that came in, I want to ask you, they say, I'm looking for support for Nutanix on AWS.
Great question. I can actually tell you more about that. Yes. So with customers, actually, Nutanix recently announced what's called Nutanix clusters. This allows customers to have the same on-prem simplified experience they had on-prem on the cloud. As they migrate from on-prem infrastructure to a public cloud like AWS, customers don't want to lose all the manageability which they actually have. And so one of the things which Haiku and Nutanix work together is that customers can actually back up the data to AWS, and anytime if you want to DR on the public cloud, you can spin up a Nutanix cluster instance, and then Haiku can get you all the data back right there. So that's one of the methods in which we can actually work together. There are many other options. Let us know. We'd be very happy to actually do.
Lots of good questions coming in. Maybe you were covering some of them already if I interrupted. Sorry about that.
No worries.
One question I did want to ask you here is, they're saying, I'm looking for support for Nutanix on AWS. Is that something that Haiku can offer?
Yes, actually, as I mentioned, there are 2 kinds of things which we do. One is we can back up the data to AWS, which we do today. We back up to AWS as well as we back up to any of the public clouds you guys actually have, or any S3 compatible public cloud, if that's what it is. We can also help customers bring up an instance of their applications, virtual machine, on Nutanix clusters on AWS. That is something we could do. Or if you want it on Azure or GCP, even that we can actually help you with. So let us know, and happy to actually help customers with.
Excellent. All right, lots of good questions here in the queue. Another one I wanted to ask you, they say, can I use VM level storage snapshots for VMware ESXi on Nutanix environments?
Great question. So one of the things that many customers actually wonder about is they actually hear this VM stun issue. That's something which people hear. Okay, I have a VM stun, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with VM stun. VM stun is where suddenly VM freezes when a backup is actually happening. This is a problem customers actually have in a traditional VMware environment. The way we mitigate that problem is that if you use the storage level snapshot functionality, we can actually do that. Haiku is the only solution which can actually leverage the Nutanix storage level snapshots both for the Acropolis hypervisor as well as customers running VMware on Nutanix. The benefit, again, you completely eliminate the VM stun, and that's a big value for customers. And that's the way we do it is using the Nutanix storage snapshots.
Excellent. All right. Next question, can Haiku auto-discover all business-critical applications across my data center regardless of location?
That's a great question again. So one of the things which Haiku actually has is it's a patented infrastructure. The way we end up doing is that we, as soon as we deploy Haiku, you have to give us a basic credential, and then what we do is that we automatically go and discover all the applications in your infrastructure for the customer. The benefit for the customer, because we do that, is that when it comes time to backup or when it comes time to recovery, we already know what applications are running where, and so the customer does not have to do anything special. We exactly know what's running, and we can tell you what infrastructure what needs to be done. And because we know the application, we can do the right level of consistency and right level of recovery for them.
Excellent, excellent. What about granular recovery of business-critical applications like databases? Is that possible?
Yes, that's one more great question. So the thing is that what we end up doing for customers is that let's say, start with customers can recover individual files or folders. That's choice A. The other thing you can end up doing is that you can actually also recover, if, for example, a single database, or recover multiple databases, or you can recover even a point in time for a database. And we can recover to the same instance, or you can recover to a different instance. So we provide a variety of choices for the customer. And as I said earlier, we can also recover your application to the public cloud if that's what you choose to. So the choice is quite varied for customers, and it allows you to do what you require when you need it.
Very nice. Very nice. Sounds like there's just a ton of possibilities here with Haiku. Before you go, I want to bring up this slide again that talks about the Nutanix Test Drive with Haiku. If people go to tryhaiku.com or the Nutanix Test Drive with Haiku, can you kind of walk us through, again, what happens next?
Totally. Once you click on Test Drive, the Nutanix Test Drive, what Nutanix does is that they create a brand new instance on the cloud for the customer. Every customer gets a dedicated instance, and they get 4 hours to play with. It's anytime they can do it right in the comfort of their home, they can get it, and they can do a complete look at the entire experience for Haiku and Nutanix and Haiku together. That's the Nutanix Test Drive. The thing with the Try Haiku thing is that, let's say that is on a public cloud, we actually give you a full flavor of it. The thing is that if you want to put it in-house and give it a test, you can actually go to tryhaiku.com, and we can actually get you a full experience, fully functional software that you can actually give it a try and see if that actually we can help you.
Awesome. And I should point out again that those links on the screen are fully clickable. Just mouse over, click, and it will open up a new browser tab or window. I encourage everyone to check it out. And with that, I think we're out of time here in our live Q&A session, but there's just a ton of electronic questions there that hopefully you can get back to in the queue. Subbiah, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you very much for your time.